and welcome back to my channel. On this video, I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I hope to read in the month of August. And if you have watched these videos before, you know that I come with a predetermined list of about 19 or 20 books that I'm hoping to read. And then I also randomly choose 5 books from my Kindle backlist using a random letter from the alphabet at the end of the video. So all of that adds up to roughly 24 books that I hope to read each month in the year of 2024. And for this month's list, I have kind of a half and half combo of fiction and nonfiction. So first, as always, I'm going to start with the books I have not gotten to yet from previous months because I am keeping those on the list in terms of what I'm hoping to read. So I was able to get through a little bit more of my backlist last month. So I only have 2 books right now that are things that I have assigned myself that I haven't gotten to yet. One is The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzin. This is the first book in the Hurricane Wars series. And this has a second book coming out a little bit later this year. And I've kind of intentionally delayed it because I want to read this a little bit closer to when I know the second book is coming out. So I will probably be reading this book, I would guess, in like October, November, maybe even December. The second book I haven't gotten to yet is called Heavenly Bodies. This is the first book in the Heavenly Bodies series, and it is by Amani Aru. And I had also intentionally delayed this because it got picked up by a traditional publisher and they created an audiobook. And the audiobook was supposed to be coming out this fall, but I just got notified that it's going to be delayed until January. So I may read this before I get the audiobook, and maybe I'll revisit it with the audiobook. So I'm still deciding what to do there, but those are the 2 books that I have not gotten to yet. Now let's move on to the new books. So first, a bunch of nonfiction. I want to pick up a book called Move the Body, Heal the Mind, and this is by Jennifer Heiss. And this is the book that's part of the kind of theme of neurodivergence that I've been researching and reading about for several months now. I've got a few books on my list this month that fall into this category. Subtitle of this book is Overcome Anxiety, Depression, and Dementia and Improve Focus, Creativity, and Sleep. This is a book I have in physical copy, and I'm looking forward to also listening to it on audio. I also decided to pick up a book called The Ideal Life, 7 Steps to Harness Your Stress, Discover Your Purpose, and Achieve Your Goals. This is by Mark Congdon. I am super into like career books and self-helpy career, like life improvement books. And I like the cover of this one and just decided to pick it up kind of on a whim. So looking forward to reading that. I also stumbled across a book called The First Rule of Mastery by Michael Gervais, and subtitle of this is Stop Worrying About What People Think of You. And I stumbled across this, I think it's a newer release, and I was reading about kind of new books that were coming out, and my library happened to have a copy of this on audio, so I went ahead and picked that up so that I could read it this month. And I don't know much about it other than kind of what the title is indicating that it's about, so looking forward to reading that. I also decided to pick up a book called What Works, a comprehensive framework to change the way we approach goal setting. This is by Tara McMullen. I have followed Tara McMullen through her blogs and other kinds of things she's done online for quite some time. And I was just really interested in kind of her perspective on this because she often comes with kind of a fresh new perspective to things like entrepreneurship and business and goal setting. And I have not read her book yet. So I'm looking forward to diving into that. I also have on my list a book called Divergent Mind by, Janara Narenberg. And I'm pretty sure this is about her experience of being autistic, or it's a book about women in particular experiencing autism. And so I want to cross that one off my list as well. Other nonfiction I'm picking up, a book called Scarcity Brain by Michael Easter. The subtitle is Fix Your Craving Mindset and Rewire Your Habits to Thrive with Enough. I read a previous Michael Easter book a couple months back that I also really enjoyed. So this is one that's been rated pretty highly and I'm looking forward to that. I also want to pick up a book called Scattered Minds, The Origins and Healing of Attention Deficit Disorder by Gabor Mate. I have heard of this author in a couple other books that I've been reading, but I've not read anything by them. And so I have actually a couple of books from this author that I've checked out from the library, and I want to dive into their backlist and just kind of see what I think. And then a couple more nonfiction. I also added a book to my list that I have wanted to read forever. It is called Creativity, Flow, and the Psychology of Discovery and Invention by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And I have read Flow by this author, and I've read some other things that they've done. And I am just like super interested in the concept of flow. And this is a book that I've had on my shelf forever. It's like this very extensive study of people who are creatives. And I have it on audio and I have it on ebook and I have a physical copy. So I'm very interested in diving into that as well. And then the last nonfiction book I have on my list is one called Eastern Body, Western Mind, Psychology and the Chakra System as a Path to the Self. This is by Anodia Judith. And I have wanted to, again, read this book for a very long time. I have a hard copy and I have it on audio. And this is a book that I came across as part of my yoga studies. Over the pandemic period, I got a credential in teaching yoga. And the course that I went through, or the courses that I went through, this was one of the teachers in those courses. And so she's very well known in the space. And this is a book that's pretty lengthy. And so I've just kind of setting it aside for a while. And now is the time that I'm going to pick it up. Okay, let's go back to the fiction that I have on my list for this month. So the box set that I'm going to pick up, because I'm picking up a box set each month this year, is one called Last Survivors. It's a Last Survivors series, and it's made up of 4 books. The first one is called Life as We Knew It. The second one is called The Dead and the Gone. The third is called This World We Live In, and then the fourth is called The Shade of the Moon, and this is by Susan Beth Pfeiffer. Now, I don't know that I know very much about this box set other than I think it's like post-apocalyptic. I mean, it's YA. Like that's kind of what I came into it knowing about. So let me give the brief description of the first book. So it says, Miranda's disbelief turns into fear in a split second when a meteor knocks the moon closer to the Earth. How should her family prepare for the future when worldwide tsunamis wipe out the coasts, earthquakes rock the continents, and volcanic ash blocks out the sun? As summer turns to Arctic winter, Miranda, her 2 brothers, and their mother retreat to the unexpected safe haven of their sunroom, where they subsist on stockpiled food and limited water in the warmth of a wood-burning stove. Told in journal entries, this is the heart-pounding story of Miranda's struggle to hold on to the most important resource of all, hope, in an increasingly desperate and unfamiliar world. So that's just book 1. I'm completely sucked in and intrigued, so I'm looking forward to picking up that box set. I also added to my list a Harlan Coben book called I Will Find You. And I have read, I would guess, easily half a dozen or more Harlan Coben books. Maybe even like a dozen at this point, because I've read different series that he's written as well. And Harlan Coben, you may have heard of because recently a lot of his books have been made into adaptations through like Netflix. And he always has these kinds of like twisty thriller, like plots. So this is basically a book about a man who goes to prison for killing his son. And then several years after he's been in prison, somebody comes with a photograph where his son is like standing in the background. And so his son is still alive. And obviously he is not the one who killed his son. And so he is planning to escape from prison so that he can save his son and clear his name. So this has prison escape, which I find really interesting. And also kind of this like missing child element, which I just think it sounds like an interesting plot. So I'm gonna pick that up. I also want to read the second book in the Wilmot Sisters series called Better Hate Than Never by Chloe Leese. I read the first book in this series as a reread earlier this year, and these are romances about 3 different sisters in the same family that are based on Shakespearean plays. And so this one is about the middle sister, I believe, and it's like an enemies to lovers based on the taming of the shrew. So looking forward to picking up that. I also decided to add to my list another Charlie Donnelly book because I also find these to be like really fun, twisty thrillers. It's called The Girl Who Was Taken. And this is about 2 abducted girls, one who returns and one who doesn't. The night they go missing, they're at a beach party and police launch this like massive search. And then there's one of the girls escapes from a bunker in the woods. And then the other girl, they are not able to find. And it says that there's a clue that kind of gets found on a different body. There's a young man who's connected to the past of the girl who doesn't come back. And so there's a sister of the girl who doesn't come back. It's a little bit twisty. And she reaches out to the girl who does come back to try to see if she can learn more about what happened on that night. So I'm looking forward to some like interesting twists in that one. Then I also picked a bunch of like really lengthy novels. Like I was just in the mood for like some really, really long fiction. So the first one that I added to my list, and this one is, I don't know if I have a page count on here, about 500 pages, is Same as It Ever Was by Claire Lombardo. This is a book that I know nothing about in terms of plot, so I will read the brief synopsis and I will learn about it along with you. But this is one that I've heard a lot of people raving about, and I was able to get it from my library. So it says that Julia, after a youth marked by upheaval and emotional turbulence, has found herself in the placid plateau of midlife. But Julia has never navigated the world with the equanimity of her current privileged class, having nearly derailed herself several times, making desperate bids for the kind of connection that always felt inaccessible to her. She finally feels at age 57 that she has a firm handle on things. She's unprepared though for what comes next, a surprise announcement from her straight-arrow son, an impending separation from her spiky teenage daughter, and a seductive resurgence of the past, all of which threaten to draw her back into patterns that had previously kept her on a razor's edge. So this is kind of like it sounds like a kind of suburban drama, and I've just heard great things about it. So looking forward to picking that up. I also am going to be trying to read All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. And I had read a previous book by this author and really enjoyed it. Again, this one is getting rave reviews. It is about 600 pages long. And it says, this is a soaring thriller and an epic love story that spans decades, going from like the 1970s, I think, to present day. And it says that there's a small town in Missouri where girls are disappearing. And when the daughter of a wealthy family is targeted, an unlikely hero emerges. A local boy saves the girl, and in doing so leaves heartache in his wake. The boy and those who love him soon discover that the line between triumph and tragedy has never been finer, and their search for answers will lead them to truths that could mean losing one another. A missing person mystery, a serial killer thriller, a love story, and a unique twist on each. So that one sounds fun. And then the last book that I have on my list is also one that I've been wanting to read for a while. It is called The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. This is about 725 pages. And this is an author that I have read before, really love his work. He is known for a best-selling book called Cutting for Stone, which takes place, I believe, in India. And this is also a story that takes place in India and spans the years of 1900 to 1977, and it says it follows 3 generations of a family that suffers a peculiar affliction. In each generation, at least one person dies by drowning, and in the city that they live in, water is everywhere. So at the turn of the century, a 12-year-old girl from the community grieving the death of her father is sent by boat to her wedding, where she will meet her 40-year-old husband for the first time. From this unforgettable new beginning, the young girl and future matriarch will witness unthinkable changes over the span of her extraordinary life, full of joy and triumph, as well as hardship and loss. Her faith and love, the only constants throughout the changes. So I am looking forward to this. I think that this author is a beautiful writer, and that's one that I've been having on my list for a long time. So those are all of the nonfiction and fiction books that I'm hoping to pick up in the month of August. And now I'm going to go ahead and shift over to my Kindle library so that I can sort alphabetically. And then I'm going to pick my random letter here. And I have chosen the letter, I have chosen a wild card. How do I want to handle my wild card? Let's see. I can't even remember the other letters I've chosen this year, so that I can try to figure out one that I haven't picked yet. All right, let me do, for my wild card, I'm just gonna look through the alphabet and pick like a random letter here. I'm gonna pick the letter H. The first one that I am definitely gonna pick is a book called Heartless Hunter. This is the first book in a series by Kristen Cicerelli, I think is how the name is pronounced. And this is one that I have heard just a ton about. This is very popular on like social media. A lot of people have been reading it. And let me take a look at the synopsis. Okay, so this says it's this is one of the people who reviewed it. They said a steamy game of cat and mouse between witch and witch hunter, played out against a backdrop of opulence, secrets, and bloody history. I couldn't look away. So that's one reviewer. So this is, as you can hear, about a witch and a witch hunter. And I'm guessing this is like an enemies to lovers series. And I actually just saw somebody who was reading the second book in this series, which has not come out yet. I think they were reading like an advanced copy, and they were raving about it, that it was so good. So this is one that I'm excited to pick up. So I'm going to pick up that book. Let's see. I am also going to pick up another nonfiction. Let's keep that theme going. I'm going to pick up a book called High Performance Habits: How Extraordinary People Become That Way by Brendan Burchard. And I am assuming, let's take a look at the description here. Okay, so it says that the author became obsessed with answering 3 questions. 1, why do some individuals and teams succeed more quickly than others and sustain that success over the long term? 2, of those who pull it off, why are some miserable and others consistently happy on their journey? And 3, what motivates people to reach for higher levels of success in the first place, and what practices help them improve the most? So that sounds really interesting. I'm gonna add that to my list also. Okay, I have another book that I'm gonna add to my list, but I'm a little bit nervous about it because I'm pretty sure it's super long, and I already have a lot of super long books this month. Let's take a look and see. Yeah, it's 700 pages. Okay, let's go ahead and add this one too. So this is a fiction book called The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. I actually was just talking with a colleague at work the other day, not the other day, months ago, but she was telling me recently that she read this book and absolutely loved it. So this is a story of a young woman plunged into a labyrinth where the secrets of her family's past connect to an inconceivable evil, the dark 15th century reign of Vlad the Impaler, and a time-defying pact that may have kept his awful work alive through the ages. The search for the truth becomes an adventure of monumental proportions, taking us from monasteries and dusty libraries to the capitals of Eastern Europe in a feat of storytelling so rich, so hypnotic, and so exciting that has enthralled readers around the world. So I will add that to my list as well. That is book number 3 of 5. The next book that I'm going to add to my list is one that I recently picked up. It is a recent release, and it is also a Reese's Book Club pick. It is called How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kwong. And this is a book, I'm trying to remember the plot. I'm gonna look it up here really quick. Let's see. Oh, it's about 2 writers who end up working on the same TV show. They're like in a writer's room together. And I think these are people who like knew each other in the past, and then they've like come back together again, and they create a kind of romance. Just like glancing through this description. So it says that working together is messy and electrifying, and her parents, they must have had like a past relationship because her parents have never forgiven like the male main character of this. And it says, when secrets come to light, they must reckon with the fact that theirs was never meant to be any kind of love story, and yet the key to making peace with their past and themselves might just lie in holding on to each other in the present. So contemporary romance that looks good. I'm gonna add that to my list as well. All right, the next book that I'm gonna pick, the last book of my alphabet challenge for this month, is a book called His and Hers by Alice Feeney. And this is a mystery kind of thriller book. And the brief description says, when a woman is murdered in Blackdown, a quintessential small town, reporter Anna Andrews is reluctant to cover the case. Detective Jack Harper is suspicious of her involvement until he becomes a suspect in his own murder investigation. Someone isn't telling the truth, and some secrets are worth killing to keep. His and Hers is a twisty, smart psychological thriller, gripping tale of suspense, told by expertly drawn narrators that will keep readers guessing until the very end. So I love a good mystery, so I'm going to add that to my list as well. All right, so let me make sure I've got all 5 chosen here from my H's. And I am really excited about some of these reads, especially these longer novels that I'm picking for August. So I hope you'll stick around over the month to come back and see my debrief video of what I was able to read in August. And until then, happy reading.